Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live. And today I'm going to show you a card made with some new goodies from the upcoming Stampin' Up! What is it? July to December 2021 mini catalog. It's a whole mouthful of words. But it's the new catalog, the mini catalog that is coming out starting on August 3rd. So again, all these products will be available beginning on August 3rd for everybody to purchase. So everything I'm using today, pretty much, there are a couple things. Obviously the paper and the ink isn't specific to the catalog, but all the other goodies are. So lots of fun things to check out, lots of fantastic new things. Hey Karen, and have I convinced you yet that you need to purchase this stamp set bundle? Because if we haven't, you need it. So hey Bree and Trudy, thanks for joining today, and Heather's here as well, and Jamie, I appreciate y'all being here. So like I said, I love fall, and I absolutely love this. This is a whole product suite in the new mini catalog, and I love everything in it. I use almost everything from the suite. There are two little things that I didn't use, but otherwise I pretty much used everything. I love it. Hey Susan, glad that you're back home today as well, and Danette and Connie, I appreciate y'all joining today. So this is the card we're going to make, and I will set that aside while we chat for a minute about the stamp set bundle. This is called Nature's Harvest, and obviously it's got some good sentiments in it, some beautiful floral images in it, kind of a vintage look. I don't know, I don't really want to call it splatter. Vintage is what I would call that. I'm not really, there's probably an official term for it, but yeah, that's what I go with. I love the font in this one, definitely some pretty images, pretty fonts. Love the mixed fonts in it as well. And then there's this absolutely awesome set of coordinating dies. These are the Harvest dies, and again, I love them. So this die, actually it's upside down on my sheet here, but this one cuts out this image, and this one cuts out this image. And then we have a couple here that go with sentiments. But otherwise, I don't know my flowers very well. This flower is a standalone image. This one is a standalone image. This one that sort of looks like wheat, or maybe something with flowers on the top. I don't know exactly what it is. I went with flowers on the top, but it definitely does look like wheat. So there's this die that's a standalone, and then a branch. So it's a fantastic set of dies, beautiful stamp set, and a bunch of other coordinating products as well. Whoops, I better set my dies over here because we're going to need to play with those. Hey Penny and Pam and Katie, I appreciate y'all being here, and I don't know if I missed anybody else hopping in. So one of the other things that we are going to be using on this is the Time-Worn Type 3D Embossing Folder. And that's exactly what it is. It looks like time-worn type. So, I mean, you can see that there's script, well, like typewritten script in the background. And then there's kind of just like vintage, looks like old paper kind of look to it. So it's a really cool embossing folder. Again, this is called the Time-Worn Type, and this will be available as well beginning on August 3rd. And what else did I use on here? Oh, I guess we'll talk about the other stuff, but those are the main things that I used. The designer series paper we'll talk about in a little bit, but this is the Harvest Meadow designer series paper that I've got in the background. And then there are a couple of the brushed metallic adhesive backed dots that I also used. All right, cone flowers. Okay, is that the official name of them? Hey, Jerry and Elise and Kate. So I appreciate, is it cone flowers? I've heard them called a couple different things, so I'll just call them flowers until somebody tells me what they actually are. Because I am not a floral person at all. Usually all I can do with flowers is kill them. All right, wanted to remind you the Designer Series paper sale is currently going on from Stampin' Up. They have 9 beautiful Designer Series papers from the annual catalog that are 15% off for the entire month of July, and it runs through August 2nd. So the details are out on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. Feel free to stop out there and take a peek. They're also available in the online store. There's a whole page dedicated to them out there. So definitely go take a look. There's some beautiful papers, and I'm definitely stocking up. This one in particular is one of my very favorites, and that's the first time I've seen it go on sale, and I'm excited. So I will be stocking up on that one. All right, I think we can go ahead and get rolling on this. So I'm going to start with doing a little stamping first, because I want to make sure this is really dry as I go and start coloring it. So I've got soft suede, and it's basic white cardstock, and then I have the flower image, and I'm not going to call it I'm not going to name the flower because I'll probably say the wrong one. Someone else said it was cone flower, so I will go with that for now. But again, I'm no floral expert, so I don't know if that's right or wrong. she could tell me anything. I'd say, okay. All right, so we're stamping that in soft suede ink on a piece of basic white cardstock. And looks like we got a pretty good image with that one. And then I'm going to well, actually I'm going to leave that out, but I'm going to set this aside for 1 second while I work on the background of the card just to make sure that that is dry before we start doing the coloring on it. So I have one of the blending brushes, and it's already all nasty and used. And ooh, I got gunk on my card. This is a piece of basic white cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Hey Barbara, thanks for hopping in. I have embossed it with the Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder, which again, I don't know how well you can see it, but hopefully as I add a little ink to it, you'll be able to see the also called echinacea. See, and that's why it's all confusing to me, because I'm like, I don't know. They have many names. I don't know. I just call them flowers. So, Black-Eyed Susan. See, now that's what it looks like to me as well, but I don't. Again, I am not a flower person, so don't ask me. All right, so I've got soft suede ink here again and my blending brush, and I'm just going to go off the cardstock and on my scrap paper first, and then I'm just going to take this and kind of lightly go across some of the areas. I'm not even doing all of them, but just kind of going a little bit here and there because I want it to look a little vintage, but I don't necessarily want it to be super, super dark with lots of shading on it. I just kind of wanted it to look a little grungy and a little old. That was kind of what I was going with on it. So again, I didn't do like a really nice job of making sure it was nice and even. I just kind of drug the blending brush around the edges mostly, and then a little bit across the center. Particularly, I tried to concentrate, and hopefully you can see it on here, a little bit on where it didn't have the text and it was more like old paper look. So that was where I tried to put most of the color when I was adding it. But again, you know, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it. I just added color to the background. Your set's going to be arriving tomorrow. I agree. I think they should tell us what what flowers they are, because I'm terrible at that. So let's see who else. Somebody else I just saw hop in. Oh, Yolanda. All right, from Florida. Hopefully you're having a good day and not boiling down there. I don't know how hot it is down there, but we are warming up here definitely in New Jersey. So. All right, the card base on my original one was cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2, so it's the top fold card. This one, obviously, it will fit on a regular card base as well, so if you prefer the book fold card, that is what I'm using today. And it's thick basic white that I've got for my card base, and it's cut to 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. So it's the same card front measurement, it's just a little different opening than my original one that I had done as my sample. I've got a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and I usually use that adhesive when I'm going to be sticking something down that requires a little bit of possibly shuffling around to make sure you get it on straight, which sometimes when I use the whole card fronts, I do have to do that. So 74 in Florida, that's not terrible. Well, tornado watch sounds kind of terrible, but, but 74 doesn't sound so horrible to me. All right, so we got that on the card front. Now I'm going to bring back in this image that I stamped with the soft suede ink, and we're going to do a little bit of coloring. And again, you know, my coloring style is not super, super like, you know, wow. It's just I get the color on the paper, and that's mostly what I'm worrying about. I am starting with So Saffron for the flower, and again, just kind of putting the color on the paper. And this is the light So Saffron that I'm starting with. And again, because this is sort of a vintage look stamp, I didn't necessarily make sure that I colored everything completely. You know, if it looked a little streaky is probably the wrong, you know, vintage maybe is the word that I should say. It looked a little vintage. I wasn't going to worry about it. I just kind of wanted to get the color on the paper and have it do a little bit of shading with it, but it's not going to be a super, super fantastic job and tons of time coloring. Just a little bit of color here and there, and really that's all that you need to do on this one. So I'm using now So Saffron Dark Stampin' Blends, and then I'm going to come back in with the light and just kind of pull a little bit here and there where I think, you know, maybe it needs a little more shading or a little bit more color. But again, it's not even, you know, it doesn't need to be a super wonderful job of coloring. Making up words as I'm going along. All right. 79 degrees and pleasant. Oh, it was 86 10 minutes ago. Yeah, that sounds like a typical storm down south. So, all right, I've got Cajun Craze, light and dark, that I'm using to color in the tops of the flowers. And the vintage is torn. Worn and torn. You're right. That's exactly it. So I'm using Cajun Craze, and it's light and dark. So I'm starting with the light again first and just doing the flower centers. And then coming back in with the dark. The colors that I used on this, with the exception of So Saffron, the Designer Series paper pack, that was it, Harvest Meadows Designer Series paper, actually has the blue and the yellow and the Cajun Craze and all that in it. The color is technically Bumblebee in the yellow that's in the pack of paper, but we don't have a Bumblebee Stampin' Blends marker, so I pulled the next closest one that I thought was closest to it, and that was So Saffron, so that's what I went with for my yellow color. And we're using Old Olive, which isn't in the paper either, but I thought we needed something green for the stems. You know, I thought for a second about doing blue, but I thought that would look really, really weird. So I went with green. So again, Old Olive Light is what I'm starting with. I'm using the bullet tip on this particular part of the image just because it's a little skinny in some places, and sometimes I get a little crazy when I use the brush tip and end up putting color in places that I didn't necessarily want it. So I find that if it's kind of little skinny stems and things like that, that the bullet tip end works a little bit better for me. Loving my made-up words. See, that's why y'all come, is just simply for the entertainment. You don't care a thing about the photos or about the card projects. It's all about the entertainment. I'm really not even that entertaining. Sometimes I crack myself up, but you know, probably not so much you guys. All right, so again, coming back in with dark, Old Olive. And I certainly don't crack my kids up. They don't think I'm funny at all. I mean, I think I'm funny, but they don't agree. So I've got dark Old Olive that I put down first. And then I'm going to come back in. And I'm actually going to use the brush end here with the light Old Olive on the larger part of the leaf, just because I can. And if, I don't know, I feel like the brush end blends it a little bit nicer. So in spaces like this where I want it to blend a little bit, then I will come back in with the brush end. All right, and I think we're done with the coloring, so you find me completely funny. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. So, I guess we're not quite completely done with the coloring. I did die cut this ahead of time from Crumb Cake cardstock, and again, I used one of the Harvest dies, which is this one. Just ran it through the die cutting machine, and we are going to use light Misty Moonlight, and again, this is one of the colors that's in that designer paper pack, the Harvest Meadows Designer Series paper. And we're just going to add a little bit of color to the top of this. Now, whether this is wheat or flowers is still up in the air. I heard Jamie earlier call it wheat, and she's probably right, but I called it flowers. I don't know what kind of flowers, blue flowers. So that is what I'm going with, at least for the moment, until I want it to be wheat, and then it will be wheat next time I use it. So that's the nice thing, is we get to decide what it is. All right, adding a little bit of color again, just using the Misty Moonlight. I was going to call it Moonlight Madness, and I knew that was not the right color. Misty Moonlight. And I used the light Stampin' Blends marker. I don't know that it necessarily matters, but I just kind of wanted a little bit of that blue coloring on there, and we will call it good. Okay, let me do some die cutting. Again, I've got my die cutting machine is set up off here to my right hand side, which I know you can't see it, but I'm like pointing to it like you care. I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine quickly and cut that out, and we'll start assembling the card front. So hopefully you all are enjoying the afternoon. Well, I guess it may not be afternoon where everyone is. It's afternoon here. My younger one started her summer camp at school program. They're calling it camp this year. Well, I think they always call it camp, but for the special education students, they get to go for the summer. So she was pretty excited to get up and out and back to school again, which is kind of weird, I know, but she loves school, so I'm not going to complain. So, all right, so done the die cutting there. Let me get that out of the way. And I've got my other piece all colored here and ready to go. Now we're just going to adhere things on to the card front with a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue. It is a really pretty bundle, Melanie. It's definitely one of my favorite ones. You know, I love fall. And then when I saw this one, it was a whole suite of products and beautiful fall colors. I definitely, this one was on my list, and that kind of at the top of my list of things that I was definitely going to get. So as you'll see, I'm putting just kind of little dabs of the multi-purpose liquid glue on here. You don't need to cover the entire thing because we are going to put some layers over the top of it, particularly on the lower part of it. I don't want to put a ton of glue on because sometimes it gets a little squishy and oozes out, and then I don't love that either. All right, so let's adhere that down to the card front. And then same thing with the die cut image that I've got here. We're just going to use a little bit of liquid glue and add that, hopefully. This one's a little easier because I can just put it on the wider spots, so I don't have to be quite so careful with it. And flip that over and layer it right over the top of my other die cut and stick it down. This one I do have to hold for kind of a second just because it's over bumpy background paper and another die cut underneath it. So I want to make sure that that sticks down in all the places where it should be sticking down. So, hey Jan, thanks for hopping in today. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it hasn't been much trouble getting her to go to school. She does really like it. Now, she doesn't always like to get out of bed early to go to school, but once she gets there, she loves it. So she doesn't generally gripe too much about it. And I guess I should start talking about what these are. So this is from the Harvest Meadows 12 by 12 Designer Series paper, and I used a big whopping 5/8 inch by 3.5 inch piece of both of these panels. So this one is kind of a crumb cakey color. This one's got your Misty Moonlight in it, and then the back side of both of them, it's Calypso Coral that's on it. Again, it's a beautiful pack of paper, one that you'll definitely want to get when the catalog goes live here on August 3rd. I put these on here a little bit offset. Well, I should probably put this straight so that I can hopefully get this on here straight. A little bit offset with the first one, and then offset the opposite direction with the second one. And I just use Stampin' Seal to adhere the panels to the card front, or I shouldn't even call them panels, little strips of paper to the card front. Hopefully I got it kind of straight. I think I did. I don't know. I should probably just leave it alone because I'm probably making it worse. All right, next up, I've got some linen thread, and I'm going to tie a little bow, and I realize my glue dots are not up here next to me, so I'm just going to take linen thread and tie a bow, hopefully, if I can do this on screen. Oh, there we go. All right. And then I'm going to adjust the ends. And if you hear any racket outside, I apologize. My neighbors apparently didn't ask me whether I was doing a live video, and they have a tree trimming service over at their house, chopping and mulching trees. So there's kind of a bunch of noise outside, and I'm hoping you aren't going to be able to hear it. So, all right, we've got a little glue dot here, and we are going to take that and put it right over the center of the card and stick my little bow right here to the center. And the glue dot looks all icky, but you're not going to see it in a second, so it doesn't matter what it looks like underneath there. Next thing we're going to do is stamp the sentiment, and I use Misty Moonlight for the sentiment. Keep thinking you have enough stuff. Oh, you never can have enough flower stamps and dies, but yes, this one's beautiful, and yes, you definitely need it. Don't even ask, just say, yep, you need it. All right, so stamp that in Misty Moonlight on basic white cardstock. And I'm going to use this die from the Harvest dies to cut it out. So again, my die cutting machine is over here to my right, so I will be off screen for 1 second while I do the die cutting here. And of course, I've got gunk all over my cutting plate. So, all right. Hopefully I will get this cut straight the first time because I didn't bring any extra basic white cardstock. And that's usually when I make a mess of things, is when I have gotten all, oh, I'll be fine, I don't need any extra cardstock, and then I realize I do. They are actually, I think, going to go well with the Quiet Meadow stamp set. So, you know, like I said, just so pretty. So many nice things in this catalog. All right, so we've got a die cut done, and I think I got it fairly straight. I'm not going to say it's perfectly straight. And I'm going to take a couple of little Stampin' dimensionals. Actually, they're my half Stampin' dimensionals. I take my dimensionals and just chop them right down the center of the row. And I'm going to put one kind of out on either side of the die cut here, leaving the space in the center because I know that the little bow and the knot and everything is going to be kind of a lump in the center of the card, so I don't want to put a dimensional in there and then have it be a really weird big lump. And then we are just going to take our linen thread, make sure that that's pushed out of the way, and try to center it and get it on here straight and not get my linen thread caught underneath it. And that's it for the sentiment. The last little piece that I added on here is the brushed metallic adhesive back dots, and the colors are bronze, copper, and gold. And I used the bronze on the card that I actually have over here, but I think today I'm going to use the copper just because I haven't used copper yet. I used gold on a different project, so I just figured I'd add a couple of little copper dots here. So we've got one over here and then one up over here. And that's going to be it for the card front. So all done on that. On the inside, I kept it pretty simple as well and just did a little stamping. This is basic white cardstock, and apparently I must have junk all over my table because everything I'm picking up has ick on it. I don't even know what it is. Ick is the word that I will use. And soft suede ink is what we're going to be stamping this in. And again, it's just that same image that we used on the card front with the flowers. And we're just going to stamp it right over the edge of the cardstock like that. And then we're going to adhere that to the inside of the card base, and we are all done with the card for today. And hopefully I won't smear it as I'm putting it down on the card or inside the card using a little Stampin' seal, which is my favorite adhesive for anything that goes on flat and easy like this. That's a little bit wider. Flip this over, and adhere the two pieces together. And then we're just going to close this up, and I'm going to grab my bone folder. And usually when I've embossed the card front, I don't want to use my bone folder and smash down on the embossing. So I usually try to flip it over, and I try not to smush too hard on it and still get a decent crease, but just try not to smash down the embossing on the card front with the bone folder. So, all right, so that's it. So I don't know which one you prefer as far as the colors go. I don't know. Part of me leans towards this one. I like this one with the green, but then this one I think brings out a little bit of the color in the top of the flowers. So I don't know. I think they both work. So, all right, so this is my card that I put together earlier. This is the card we did here today. All the details are going to be posted for this project out on my blog tomorrow, and I will share a link to the project in this video. So take a look at the description of it tomorrow if you want to see the link to the blog post, and all the details and the cardstock cuts and everything will be out there. If you're interested in getting your hands on this product right now and are not a demonstrator, join. That's the way you get it. So it's an awesome new catalog, and I'm happy to share it with you. Speaking of catalogs, my catalogs are on the way. They are being packed up as we speak. My daughter is helping me do that. So they're being packed up for my customers and on the way out the door. If you don't have a demonstrator that you work with and would like a catalog, drop me an email at amy@stampwithamyk.com with your mailing address, and I'll stick a catalog in the mail to you as well. And Designer Series paper shares, that's the last thing I was going to talk about. All of the pretty Designer Series papers, all the new ones in the upcoming mini catalog, I'm going to be doing a Designer Series paper share. I will be posting the details for that on Friday, July 9th on my blog, so you can take a look for that there. And I think that's all, so I will let you all go. So thanks so much for joining today. I appreciate you being here. I will plan to be live on YouTube around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, and then back here live on Facebook again around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday. So we will chat soon.